Welcome to Nigh, a podcast where two men discuss their opinions and sometimes agree and sometimes disagree. We agree to see eye to eye regardless of whether that's in agreement or not. Your hosts here today are Vlad, myself, and
Joey. Howdy, everybody. And again, these are just our opinions. We touch base on pretty much anything, whether it's pop culture, politics, tech, which is stuff I don't really know about, but Vlad here does. Anything, music, film.
We're talking about what's in the zeitgeist.
Yeah.
Anything and everything. If it happened, we're going to talk about it. We're going to discuss our opinions on it. Hopefully you guys find it interesting. And hey, stay tuned.
And again, this is just our opinions. So please don't take it literally, freak out, and send me tweets or Instagram DMs or any of that, okay? Or Facebook Messenger if you're 50 and up. You know, don't freak out, okay? Because we're just talking here.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to Eye to Nigh. Just a quick heads up, our audio quality was a little messed up in the first one, but we managed to fix it in future episodes, so stay tuned. Hope you enjoy. I know last time we had talked about TV shows, kind of, you know, The Sopranos, The Wire, Breaking Bad.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, there's always, I feel like, these iconic, every 5 or 10 years or so, there's like these iconic TV shows that come out.
Sure.
But what do you think about movies? Because I think there's always some movies that are just like the classics.
Yeah. They're dead.
All movies are just dead.
That's the wokening has killed them too.
Oh my God.
No. I'm kidding. They've moved. So in terms of anything recent?
No, it doesn't even have to be recent.
Okay.
Like, you know, here I'll make it even like, let's go this way with it. What are your like classic movies? Like,
sure,
you're at home cracking open a cold one, or maybe, you know, it's a nice tumbler of single malt,
busting out some Coke.
I mean, whatever the vibe
you get down,
is,
man. However
you get down.
Yeah, that's a good one, because you know what, I'm like, it's pretty frustrating with me, because I'm like, I like what I like.
Yeah.
And then it's really hard for me to watch anything new without me just being totally.
Whoa, wait a second. You got to break out of the bubble, man.
Come on. No, you're right. I do. I mean, there's some good movies. Like, okay, so for instance, the latest amazing movie that I just absolutely love that came out fairly recently is probably Blade Runner.
Was it 2048 or 49 or something?
Yeah, with my man Ryan Gosling. Who, you know what? I love Ryan Gosling, but I think there's like a big conspiracy in Hollywood. I think he's just great casting. I don't think he's like that great of an actor, because he does like the same. Have you seen Drive?
I haven't seen it.
Oh my God, we gotta watch Drive. He's so good though. Like, that's the thing. It's like, maybe it's not a conspiracy. He's a great actor. I mean, what he did in La La Land and all that shit. He's been in 50 fucking movies. But that's probably the latest movie I've seen that I just was in love with, was Blade Runner.
Okay, let me put on my my tinfoil hat here. In this, you know, this atmosphere of wokeness and pursuit of profits,
yeah,
and, you know, the Oscars, do you think it's even necessary to have a leading man be real? Like, so what is to stop me as a movie executive or studio producer from just putting a deep fake in all of my movies who, you know, has the chiseled good looks?
Like a Humphrey Bogart.
Exactly. Like, why can't I just put them in there?
Yeah.
And maybe the actor doesn't even have to be real. They just do the same thing.
That's kind of scary to think about, because it's probably definitely going to happen soon.
I mean, it's possible. Like, we have the technology
well,
to
just
do
the
this.
CGI alone that we see. Number one, the Avengers movie. Talking about movies.
Oh, yeah. Avengers was like...
Those are garbage. Do you like...
What? What? Oh my God.
Dude, but this is just me. The fucking superhero thing, I'm fucking I'm tired of them in tights. I'm tired of them running around. They're fucking bulging their pants. I'm sick of it. I just can't. But I will say the only superhero movie I've seen in the theater besides like I love Dark Knight. I love.
Wait, which one?
I'm talking about the Avengers, Iron Man. Hulk.
No, but
I hate those.
Dark Knight. Are you talking like there's a lot of different Batman movies.
So the one with obviously Heath Ledger was like so blown up because he passed away right before.
Yeah.
So seeing that in the theater with a bunch of friends, like the opening night, the very first showing in San Antonio, was fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Because it was like, holy shit, like this legend fucking died. died early, which is like Americans are obsessed with, like actors or entertainers dying early. But just seeing what he did as Joker was like, fuck. And then just not even putting that into like consideration, you had all these, you had an amazing director, you had the amazing Christian Bale as Batman. So it was like, there was so much shit going on in that movie. Gary Oldman in that bitch.
Oh yeah.
So it was just an amazing experience. But, you know, I love those movies, but the Avengers, fucking Thor and Hulk, I hate it. It sucks. It's so, you know, they just fucking fuck every city up. They fuck New York up every year.
Oh yeah.
And then they got to rebuild it after every movie. It's like, just let the bad guy take over, because I'm sure he won't cause this much damage as Iron Man blowing up, you know.
He just wants the money out of the vault. He doesn't want to destroy
exactly.
downtown
And he wants to go back to space
or
wherever he's fucking from. But yeah, so you're an Avengers fan.
I am an Avengers fan.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that I like stan Avengers, but I do enjoy the movies.
Yeah.
I think there's something in the Avengers movies, and I think what that something is for me is the storytelling. I think the producers, the studio, they tell a good story. And what I mean by that is not that like, okay, aliens came from outer space to mix with like some rando, you know, genetically altered person on Earth to do some stuff. When I say like they tell a good story, what I mean is like there are elements of each of the characters, not necessarily all of them, but I think there's something that you can find that is a little either inspiring or hopeful. You know, think about, here's one. Let's take Thanos, for example.
Yeah.
Right? In the movie, he's portrayed as this ultimate badass, right? He's just like this guy sitting in his, I don't know, floating armchair recliner who's like, go do my bidding. Otherwise, I will destroy your planet and rip your head off. But there's a scene in one of the Avengers movies where Thanos has a choice, right? His goal is getting the Infinity Stones so he can get this ultimate power in order to implement his view of the universe. Right? He wants to snap his fingers, half of the population is just wiped out. But there's a cost to this. If he really strongly believes in this, right? If he's like, I'm willing to, you know, put my nuts out and anything, pay the price for it, he has to give something up. And it turns out that the something he has to give up is one of his own daughters. It's really the only daughter.
I've seen these memes.
Yeah. It's really the only daughter that he likes, because he doesn't care about the other one. He's like, whatever. And so I think it's really powerful to say that, like, not that his actions were right, like, you know, don't kill your daughter, obviously, for ultimate power.
But there's a cost to everything we do.
Yeah, there's a cost to everything that we do, and if you want to achieve it, sometimes you have to sort of weigh the cost. It's like, is it really worth it? Was giving up his daughter, you know, valuable enough to get universal power? I guess for him it was, right? Because that's how the series went. He was like, all right, bye, shove her off the cliff, and boom, there go the Infinity Stones. So I think, you know, for me, when I look at the story, yes, there's dudes in tights, and, you know, you got, you know, Scarlet Witch is in, like, you know, form-fitting latex and all this shit. Like, yeah, and they were, like, wrecking half of New York. But to me, like, I sort of just look past that, and I think about the individual people, the characters, and sort of, you know, their growth, their challenges, and their struggles.
And I mean, I will say that it does stick with like the comic books and shit, you know, like from back in the day. What was his name? Stan Lee. So like, I respect that. I do, for sure. I think I'm just more like, I don't know. I like going back to it. I like the classic movies, man. I like the like no CGI bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, Saving Private Ryan was like about as like, I don't even know if that was there had to have been some CGI. I don't know, actually. So Steven Spielberg's like the leader of that back in the day of Jurassic Park and all that. But, you know, like the movies I like typically are old. So it's like hard to watch them, like with Natalia, my wife. It's like she doesn't want to watch that. She wants to watch like action movies and shit. I'm like, I'd rather watch The Deer Hunter with Robert De Niro or something. But it's like, you know, I typically like, obviously, I mean, Goodfellas, anything Quentin makes, even though Jackie Brown's probably like, have you seen Jackie Brown?
I haven't seen that one. No.
That one it's still great, and it's probably the bottom of my list of his movies, but it's still like better than most movies, personally. But yeah, it's just like, it's hard for me to just, obviously I said I love Blade Runner 2049, which is a lot of CGI, but it's just like the superhero thing. I just feel like it's the same thing always, you know, like they're just always.
It is though.
Yeah.
That's
what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's a marketing ploy, but it's also that summer blockbuster.
Right.
You know, like, and when I think about a Michael Bay film,
Oh God.
it's explosions, it's CGI. Yeah, like you know what you're getting.
No, we're not.
So that's like, you know, I think to put myself in your shoes, like that's the kind of movie that like I am just like, I see a trailer and I'm like, there's no way in hell I will pay money to watch.
Yes. Not even watch it for free, because that's 2 hours I'm losing of my life.
Yeah, that's your time you're giving up.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some movies where you're just like immediately like turned off when you see them. So I'm trying to think of like what other movies have you seen recently that you like?
So recently, there's a couple indie films that I've got queued up that I want to see. Black Bear is one of them. It has that awkward girl from The Office. I can't remember, or not The Office. Parks and Rec.
Oh, Aubrey Plaza.
Yes,
I love her.
But she's in that one, and it's kind of like a, at least from the trailer, it looks like a kind of psychological thriller.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
She's good. I'm glad she's doing something like that, because like for a while she was just like doing like roles where she had to like get naked in. And I'm like, that's weird.
Yeah.
Because you're really funny and like you're talented.
Yeah.
Somehow you're just like getting naked in the movies.
She has more range than that.
Yes, exactly.
Let's go the opposite direction though. Instead of recent films, kind of going backwards though. So here's one of my favorites. This is like one of my classics that I will like queue up every once in a while. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Oh man, that's like I haven't seen that.
What? I cannot believe this.
That's Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
That's... I've never seen really any. I've seen Gran Torino with him.
Oh my God, Joey. So you've seen old grizzled Eastwood.
Get off my lawn!
The 70-year-old.
He's just so racist to a bunch of like Koreans and shit. No, but yeah, that's the thing is I haven't seen a lot of fucking like really old classic movies like that. Like any of his Dirty Harry, Good, Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of your favorites?
The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
No shit.
Like the spaghetti westerns.
Yes.
It is that like, to me, is like the original superhero trope. You know, before all the CGI, before, you know, the bulges and tight packages, there was a badass, you know, he had either a voice or a stare or a hat. You know, this was a guy.
That was enough.
Yeah, that was enough. They were simpler times back then.
Yeah, they were.
You know?
Lower budget too. Well, actually, there's probably a lot of money back then to film that kind of shit.
But I think the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly though, like they had a branch that I think was like the big budget stuff. But then I think the spaghetti westerns were like the fuck, like let's just cobble some stuff together.
Just make it happen.
Yeah, just make it happen.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, in that one, like Eastwood and even just the whole movie, the way it's put together is just like there's stretches of the movie where no one talks. Like there's no background music.
Oh, really?
There's no dialogue. It's just like
staring.
It's just staring. But the thing is, you feel the tension. You know, you feel that palpable sense of like build up. You don't need an explosion or like an alien laser from space. Like,
yeah.
It was just, I don't know how to describe it.
It was just acting.
Yeah, it was
and production.
It was just acting.
Yeah. The movies today, it's you obviously get to a point where you run out of shit to do. Because it's like everyone's done everything. So like how do you create something? Like Get Out was pretty original.
Oh, yeah.
So it was like that was kind of cool because it was scary, but it was creepy, but it was also like almost like an action thriller. You know what I mean? So that was good. But you know, like did you ever see The Quiet Place?
I did see that.
You know, I was like, okay. It was A Quiet Place in the theater. I'll tell you that much. I was fucking done with that movie. But I was like John Krasinski, that being his first. You know, I'm one to talk. I'm like on created a podcast out of nowhere last week. But his first movie, like that being the one where he, directed it and starred in it, it's pretty fucking good. Like, yeah, it's like really, because I love those kind of movies growing up, so it's hard for me to like be like, I'm gonna put myself all in on this one. Yeah, I'm pretty much just like a big fucking what is it, cynic. So it's like it's not fun anymore, you know. Yeah. And I wish I wasn't like that because there's probably a lot of like good shit out there.
Well, I mean, the thing is, right, as you said, there's tons of movies out there. Yeah, and even like it's not only even limited to American films, right? Yeah, because like. I don't know. I feel like there are folks who are like subtitle people and folks who aren't. But, yeah. You know, I
love subtitles. So it's a good movie. I'm all in.
Yeah. So I mean, because there's movie production companies and studios around the world. So it's not just, American films that are out there.
It's like Parasite.
Oh, yeah.
When that won
Oh my
best...
God.
I mean, he won, like, everything. He, like, almost swept the fucking thing.
I think so.
I think that was, like, a couple years ago.
He's been making movies for a while, though.
Yeah. I forgot his name.
It's like
Bong.
something. It starts with a B. That much I know. Bong or Boon.
Bong. It's some... But, Quentin Tarantino loves that guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I wonder if they'll ever do, like, a co-direct or maybe, like, do a movie together.
That would be fucking... Quentin Tarantino's only doing one more movie.
Yeah, isn't he? He's gonna do... I don't know what the next one is. But
They said he wanted to do, like, a Star Trek mixed with Pulp... Because he's a huge Star Trek fan.
Yeah.
But he wants to do, like, a Star Trek, like, mixed with Pulp Fiction. So, like, could you imagine that? Like, a fucking, like, space-age movie, but it's, like, murder, sex, whatever. You know what I mean?
I can't.
That would be crazy, dude.
But I can't even imagine that though, because I feel like I just have the picture of like Star Trek as it is now.
Yeah.
And I've like seen his movies, so I'm kind of like, how do you?
Well, not like literally Star Trek. Not like Captain Kirk doing blow off of an alien's ass or something. But okay, the director of Parasite's Bong Joon-ho. I hope I'm saying that right.
Bong Joon-ho.
This dude is a baller, though. And he's only 50... He's 51, man. He's got a lot of years ahead of him.
Wow.
But every fucking actor in this movie was amazing, man. They were all so good.
The thing that really got me about Parasite is it feels like it could be real.
Oh, for sure.
Like, there could be... if you had... I don't know, not servants, but, if you had, like...
The Help.
Yeah.
And they get somehow mixed in and lost and...
Yeah.
Buried beneath,
This could really this is some real shit. It could happen.
Yeah, that movie like blew me away, man. I loved it. I thought it was great. I definitely thought it was deserving of Best Picture, even though I loved Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
But I feel like the thing with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, this is where I start to get cynical.
Oh no.
Isn't it?
I'm out. Fuck this.
But to me, like, oh, sorry, no, I'm thinking of a different one. So,
okay. Once
Upon a Time in Hollywood is the one with Brad Pitt.
Yes. Leo.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what am I thinking of then?
Are you thinking of like the movie at the same year as this one, or a different one?
Oh, I'm thinking of La La Land.
Oh yeah.
So to me, that was like. It was just pandering. Like it's all the themes that,
It's the 1940s again.
Right.
Yeah. Every movie was West Side Story.
Yeah.
Even though that was like the 50s or 60s.
We're going to sing all the time and like...
Dance.
Exactly.
Dance your emotion.
And I mean, that's not to say that it's like a bad movie, but like, I feel like when I saw the trailer, I was like, this is going to win, but I feel like this is going to win because it's like really appealing
old school Hollywood.
Exactly.
Yeah. It was good. I've seen it. It definitely, you're right. It had that feeling once you were watching it. You were like, this is going to like blow it out of the water.
Yeah.
Like, because it's like a really old school dynamic, which has obviously been done a million times, but to bring it back in like 2019 or 18, whatever the fuck it was good. Plus, Ryan Gosling, and then you got Emma Stone, they're both really good. So comedies though, like what's like your favorite just like freeball it? What's your favorite comedy?
Like favorite comedy movie?
Yeah, not stand up.
That's a tough one for me because I don't think I've watched really like recently comedy movies. Like I've just been going towards like the stand up route.
Yeah, there's been some good stand up.
Oh yeah.
Dave Chappelle came out with like a couple last year that were really good. One was just like him going off. Did you see that one, the YouTube one?
Is this the one where he goes in on Comedy Central and the networks?
This was like I think his last one. It was like a YouTube produced one or whatever, but he went up and it was like 6 minutes. And it was just him like talking about like George Floyd. It was crazy because you're like expecting him to be like Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
And he was in some respect, but he was just talking about like a bigger, whatever.
Yeah.
And his mind was like the thing, and it was like whoa. When he was done, you were like, holy shit.
I think I've seen this one. It's like
something 8. It was.
It's like 3 numbers or something.
Yes, it was the amount of time that guy kneeled on.
Yeah.
So I was like, fuck, that's heavy.
Yeah, I did see that one. Now that you describe it, I do remember it. See, but that's the crazy thing. I can never really tell.
He's like the same every time, right?
Yeah. And that's the thing, because I think he has such like a critical critique of society.
Yeah.
That it's like if he's like drunk or something, I'm like, I don't know if it's just him or if it's like something else. Like I feel like he's always gonna go in.
Yeah.
But that one, the special you're talking about, I remember that one because I totally queued it up and I was like, yeah, this is gonna be funny, you know, I'm gonna laugh. And then he was just like, he just let loose, and I was like, oh.
And he walked off, and you were just like, that was it?
Yeah, he just leaves you hanging there.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, fuck, there goes the rest of my day. Like,
and he probably banked off that. Like,
oh, yeah.
For 10 minutes, pretty much.
The crazy part is, like, I mean, I think he even said it in one of his specials, right? He usually just shows up, does a special whenever he needs more money.
Yeah.
You know? Like, he's kind of like Shaggy in that sense.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like, made a couple hits way back when, and then every
come back
now and
and
again...
sing them again.
Yeah, he'll just pop up, and you're like, what? Is this guy still alive?
Yeah. But, you know, Dave Chappelle is like, I mean, he's a legend. So it's like he's probably banking on whatever he does. But he did the ACL like a few years ago. He did like an ACL stand that was fucking hilarious, dude. He was like dogging all like the flannel, people wearing flannel in Austin and shit. It was great. It's like right before the woke movement. So it was like there was still some fun having.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. It's game over, motherfucker.
You're either woke or you're asleep.
Yeah, you're woke or you're an asshole.
You know, that's almost, I feel like, kind of the contradiction of the internet. There is a platform for everyone to say anything that they want.
Mm-hmm. With no accountability.
Yeah, with no accountability, right? Like, anyone can say anything.
Yeah.
Right? But then it's almost like in real life, you can't say, like, the diversity of thought is really limited.
Yeah.
You know, if you say something and someone else is like, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe you said that.
You're definitely more buttoned up, like, in public. Everyone is, right? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, what I'm saying is, like, if you look at how many different opinions there are and how strongly people push their opinions on the internet, that is, like, an 11.
Yeah.
But, like, when you go walk down the street, I think it's, like, maybe, like, a 5. Unless, you know, someone gets, like, punched in the face or something and then, you know, people start freaking out. Like, I feel like in general, it's really hard to get confrontational with people. Like, in the public.
Yeah.
But on the internet, it's just like, oh, this guy's an obvious turd. Or this lady doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. Go back to your own country or something. You know, like, it's so aggressive on the internet. But then I feel like, unless you really just, like, you know, slap someone in the face, like, on the bus or something, people are just like,
Yeah, no one wants to get into it, like, in real life.
Yeah.
They want to go about their day, but you're right. Like, getting on the internet, Twitter, whatever, it's like, it's so easy to fire back.
Warriors right there.
Yeah.
And just like...
There's no, like, retribution when you do it. It's just, like, the worst that can happen is they'll fucking comment back.
Yeah.
And tag you. Going back to, like, social media, a lot has to do with that, how we're so fucking connected. We all see everything at all times, and like the biggest part of that is like the algorithm. So we're only seeing what we like. So like Instagram knows what we don't like, TikTok knows what we don't like and what we do like. So we're just constantly bombarded with shit we do like. So that's all we know. So then when we see something that's kind of like not necessarily like attracted to, it's kind of like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is bullshit.
So do you think that, you know, in this technological age of algorithms and social media and, you know, recommender systems, do you think things have gotten worse when people, you know, are confronted with something, some news article or some, you know, even just someone who's expressing an opinion that's different than their own?
Oh, big time. Hugely, more than ever before. Because I think without social media and just seeing like these instant gratification type posts or stories or videos or whatever, we don't even look for the full story anymore. We just see that and we're like, that's what fucking happened. That's what I believe. Fuck everything else. Because we gotta be honest, like people our age, which we're not like the youngest bucks in the room anymore, but we're early 30s. So,
I mean, speak for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little old. Well, I don't know. We're about the same age,
yeah,
right?
We're the same age.
So it's like, we grew up on the news though, right? Like you put on the fucking news and you're like, okay, there's fucking Bryant Gumbel or Tom Brokaw and that's the news.
Exactly.
It's that hour and you're like, cool. And maybe you see some Dateline or something, like a white person murdered his wife or something like the typical thing. But it's like, now it's like we don't, like the younger generations don't rely on the fucking news. We rely on Twitter and like Instagram. So it's like, that's what I know. I follow these people. These are my followers. Whatever you say is, you know, obviously there's some sort of like entanglement in terms of like, I don't get what the fuck's going on here. So we're immediately drawn to what we like now, and now we're stuck with it. So that makes it, going back to your point, it's hard to fucking just get together and be like, I don't agree with this shit, but I respect your point of view, whatever. We can't do that anymore. It's really fucking hard because everyone's so emotional, and you know, there's a lot of fucked up shit that goes on in the world, but now it's so polarizing because we see it every day. Like, it was hard to see videos like of what transpired in the past year, like the George Floyd thing. You didn't just see that when we were 13.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I remember when I was like 16, maybe even younger, like the beheading videos that would come.
You know, I was just thinking about that.
Yeah, like when you saw that, you were like, holy, this is the internet.
Yeah.
And it was fucked up. And you could handle it when you were younger because you're like, I'm going to live forever. Fuck it. You know what I mean? But it's like now I'm thinking back, I'm like, I can't watch that fucking poor guy get his head cut off with a fucking, you know, knife.
Well, and I think that also speaks to it too, because when we were younger and a video like that came on the internet, that wasn't the norm.
Right.
So when you saw something like that, when something like that was put out there and word got out, it was significant. Whereas nowadays, everyone has a video camera, right? We carry these phones around in our pockets, and everyone is a movie star. Everyone's got a film production crew with them. So you can see every little single thing that happens in the world. No matter how gruesome, how sadistic, you know, it's out there. It's on TikTok. It's on, well, not Vine anymore because they're gone.
They got bought out.
They got bought. But, you know, it's everywhere. So we almost, like, have become desensitized to it in a sense.
Yeah. I honestly feel like social media has done way more harm than good. I mean, it's like, great, I can talk to some dude in fucking Kazakhstan. Awesome. He likes The Office, too. But it's like, at some point, I don't even know, because it's like they get away with anything, too. Like, they'll go in front of Congress. You got Mark Zuckerberg just walking circles around these fucking guys because he's like a reptilian lizard or whatever, you know, like, they don't understand it. It's like my dad trying to talk to Mark Zuckerberg about, you know, turning the internet back on.
Yeah.
You know, I gotta just unplug the modem or whatever, the router for 10 seconds. That's what it is like for these guys to go in front of Congress. The same with Jack Dorsey, the Twitter guy. It's like, they go in front of Congress, there's not a big deal. They're in trouble for a bunch of shit, but no one ever gets in trouble. So, you know, the change doesn't seem like it's happening. And it almost seems like it's like they're in cahoots with what the big gov is trying to do. You know what I mean? In terms of censorship.
Yeah.
So it's kind of spooky, to be honest.
So let's dig into that for a bit, because I think, you know, we're both on the same page about how it used to be, right? As well as how it is now. And I think more or less we have the same picture of what we would like it to be. You know, how do we get there? Like, how do we go from this overly bombarded push notifications, social media, trapped in your bubble, hate everyone else who doesn't agree exactly with you, never even think about any other perspective, to a tolerant and hopefully a little bit more peaceful society?
I mean, I honestly thought we were getting there maybe like a few years ago. Well, probably before the Trump election, because that was so fucking crazy. Yeah. Just the debates and all, you know what I mean? Like, I remember like listening to the commercials like at work, and they would play. It was like the Hillary campaign playing shit against Trump about like not voting for him, and just play like clips of him talking about Rosie O'Donnell. He'd be like, "She ate like a pig." Just shit like that, and just him demoralizing, you know, just what women and like whatever. So I'm like, fuck, he's definitely not getting elected. I woke up the night of, I guess after the election, I read, you know, he was elected president. I'm like, holy fuck. So once I knew that was happening, I was like, number one, our votes do matter. Because there's no fucking way. Because I always grew up like, I'm like, our votes don't mean shit. Like, presidents are selected, not elected, that whole thing.
Yeah.
But, like, when he won, I was like, maybe our fucking votes do matter. Because, like, obviously, you know, that's not like the powers that be said Trump is the president. Let's fucking push it. So, like, I guess to answer your question is, like, I think it's more or less just surrounding yourself with people that can disagree with you, but also find a common ground and be like, you know what, you're a person. I respect you. You're my friend or family, whatever. Like, we can get along with this shit. So, I don't know what that says about future generations, people that are literally being born into this technological era of, like, social media. Because it's only going to get crazier, too. So, as we've talked about before, I think it's bleak. What do you think? Do you think there's any getting back?
I think there is. And I think there's sort of two bits behind it. I think the people have to want it. I don't think there's ever going to be a major event or someone in office who is encouraging tolerance and, you know, kindness and understanding, and that's how the country gets to a very peaceful state. I think it has to come from the people themselves. I think people at some point, maybe not, you know, everyone, but I think people are starting to wake up and see, hey, a lot of my newsfeed is dictated by some, machine learning algorithm. Or, I hate Bob across the street because he votes for a different party than me. But Bob still has a family. He's got a wife and kids, and he goes to my local church and he volunteers and helps out. Maybe Bob isn't such a bad guy. The other thing that gives me hope too is the next generation. Surprisingly. Mm-hmm. So a lot of what I read about Gen Z is that they're very socially conscious. They're looking at some of the previous generations like ourselves, like, Gen X, like the boomers, and saying, I want to work for a company, or I want to make it my life's work to do something that matters, that impacts the world. And not saying that that's not a message that, our generation or anyone previous generations have not had, but I see them really standing up for it to the point where they're saying, I would rather not take this job and accept this money if it's for a company that's not in line with my values. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a lot more, I wouldn't necessarily call it tolerance, but I'd say more maybe like acceptance of different beliefs, whether that's religious, whether that's sexual, whether that's political. So, from the few TikTok videos that I've seen, I feel like kind of gives me a little,
That dang TikTok!
It makes me feel good, at least more so, that the next generation is, improving on things, hopefully. Yeah.
You just gotta kind of base it off that. So maybe there is hope. Every generation says the same shit, it seems like.
Hope is
goddamn country's gone to shit! And it's like, it may seem like that to us now, and like that's the only thing that gives me hope is like our parents said the same shit. Yeah. Their fucking parents said the same shit. Their fucking, like, we talk about like Elvis came out shaking his hips, like that was the worst thing that ever happened. Now you got Lil Nas X literally blowing the devil like in a music video, and everyone's like, that's fine, that's okay.
Is that why that video is so like I haven't seen his
video. He's just like, it's very well. So number one, we grew up during Marilyn Manson, right?
Yeah.
So you were like, okay, he's fucking devilish, and he's got like the fucking the weird pupils and the fucking, he took his ribs out to suck his dick, someone said, I don't know how that traveled, I
heard that.
Exactly. And we were from different parts of, like I was in San Antonio, you were in Houston or wherever. It's like, how the fuck does that travel? But anyway, so it's like, I'm not worried about like, that's the devil, that's evil, because I'm not very religious. I'm not religious at all. But it's like, it's so blatant where I'm just like, this is fucking weird. But it's like, that's where I go into my head. I'm like, I'm getting old because like I'm bothered by this. So like, in 1999 when Eminem was talking about all this crazy shit and like whatever with his mom, I was like, this is cool, but I'm not a kid anymore. That is like the turning tide, is the generations that follow ours, that it could change whatever our predicament is in terms of like social history and stuff. So yeah, it is up to them, honestly. And if you thought millennials weren't having kids, Gen Z, I don't even know if they give a fuck about the other sex.
It's hard to tell. Like maybe 5 cats is the way to go.
Yeah,
that's your legacy.
They all look like K-pop stars now, so it's like, I don't know. Not that K-pop is like one of the biggest movements ever in music. Oh, that dude. Shit is running the.
It's crazy.
Those fuckers are popular, man. It's like Backstreet Boys on acid, and they're good. They're talented. They're fucking. They're dancing and this.
So I don't know if this is true or not. So this probably needs to be fact checked. But I heard that K-pop is a cultural export of the South Korean government.
Really?
So yeah, so supposedly, and again, right, take this with a grain of salt because this may not be 100% true, but their government pumps a lot of money into the marketing, the production, even the career development of that entire industry, because for a country, that small, that's how they're able to, one of the ways in which they're able to have that global influence. Because here in America, right, you go on Spotify, there's K-pop artists. Mm-hmm. Some of the biggest music stars have either done crossover hits with K-pop artists, or we have K-pop artists on the top of the charts. So I think there's certainly a big influence there. There's certainly like a worldwide, global reach. But what I heard is that it's part of like a cultural thing that like the South Korean government is like, we've invested hundreds of billions or maybe hundreds of millions of dollars or something in it.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this, doing a little pull up on the laptop, it says from an article on NPR, and I guess this little sector of the publisher is the South Korean government made K-pop a thing. Yeah, and it pretty much does talk about them being influential in their... Because, South Korea has a ton of money. And those guys create all the technology and everything. They're pumping that shit out. The city's amazing. A lot of different influences there.
They're living in the future. They're probably going to get flying cars before we do.
Seriously. I know they handled COVID a lot better than we did.
What was their response to COVID?
I think they were just super strict. I mean, China was like uber strict with it. They literally shut the fucking country down for like weeks. Now they're having festivals. They were having like music festivals like 4 months ago. So they're definitely like over it. That was a big mess. It was a big fucking fuck up, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, I think, even right now, like a lot of countries are struggling with it. Like,
still.
Yeah.
Europe is still fucked up on it.
Yeah. India, I was listening to this radio broadcast maybe like 2 days ago, and India is like really strapped with COVID. One of the things that they mentioned, they have, I think, a reporter on the ground, and they were saying that there's a waiting list for bodies to be cremated.
Yeah, I did see that video where they were like, it was like a mass cremation.
Yeah, it's crazy. And the only thing that I can think of that comes close, and like I didn't live through this, is like the bubonic plague. Mm-hmm. When you have like just bodies piled up, mm-hmm. like that to me is just insane, especially in 2021, like this age of modern medicine and stem cell therapy, you know, and all this like medical advances. It's like we still have places in the world where people just are like dying in mass numbers.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But I think going back to the COVID piece though, every country I think had a slightly different response to it. For the countries that are like really heavily dense, I feel like some of them I think were more already used to wearing masks. I think in
a lot of Asian countries were not that abnormal.
Yeah, that's the norm. Like if you have a fever or a cough or something, you just put a mask on and you walk around so that you don't infect other people. Mm-hmm. And I have to say, like, after having to wear a mask for so long here, like I did notice a point, like 6-9 months in, I was like, I haven't gotten any fevers, I haven't gotten sick, that mm-hmm. kind of yearly cold that goes around, or the flu, nothing. It just like passed me by. So once this whole COVID-19 thing kind of is in the rear view mirror, I might be a mask wearer full time.
Even at the height of COVID, say last May, I guess that's like in the States, I was like, they're like, oh fuck, something's up.
Yeah.
Just walking around the store, I was like, people are gonna be you're gonna see people wearing masks forever in this fucking country. Some people.
Yeah.
It will turn into that because people are just used to that and it's like burned into their brain. But you're right. Like that kind of touches base on like what I was thinking. It's like, I get according to the numbers, COVID's more contagious. But like where I was coming from, thinking about, I'm like, okay, so no one's had the flu. Like the flu numbers are at a record low, which is, I get it, correlates to people wearing masks, washing their fucking hands, sanitizer. But I'm like, it's so impactful on the flu and shit. But COVID is kind of conflicted on is like heart disease, cancer deaths, they're all down, but then COVID deaths are proportionate to what all these other things would have been. So it just brings up in my head, I'm like, what's going on? You know what I mean? Like, because initially, like, we had like all the stories coming out on New York Times about New York City counting COVID deaths when they weren't necessarily COVID deaths. Like, it would be like, the guy got COVID, he recovered, and then he got shot in the head. And they would count it as a COVID death, and it was because of funding and like federal government would fund you so much money if you had a COVID death at in your city or whatever, so you would get. So like that's when I started being like, this to me is a bunch of bullshit. Like are people dying from it? Yes. Are the people who are immunocompromised or have comorbidities, are they going to struggle with this? Or CDC came out and said 80% of COVID deaths were related to obesity, which came out like a couple weeks ago. So it's like, just what happened with COVID and shutting down the economy, the whole world stopped. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And went to shit over this coronavirus, which was obviously taking out people, but it was unprecedented for our lifetime. I think like the last time this happened was we had SARS and shit like that, and the fucking West Nile virus, but I think the Spanish flu was like the last big thing that happened in terms of a pandemic, where it was just knocking people out left and right.
Yeah.
So, but going back to your point, Vlad, with India, where it is now. So according to this, the 7-day change in new cases, June, 9,000, going up to August, 60. So it's obviously jumping pretty hard. But from August 27th to April 15th of this year, it's gone from 68,811 patients or new cases all the way up to 386,555 new cases on a 7-day average. That's crazy.
Insane. Yeah, I mean, the situation right now in India with COVID is just crazy. The fact that, it's such a dense country, and then thinking about the number of people population-wise that they have, that when you go up to something like 386,000 new cases just in a day, that's insane. You kind of have to wonder, like, here in the States, right, the response to it was, I think, mixed initially. People were like, some people were like, oh, it's not a thing. Other people were like, this is the end of the world. Like, God is going to come down from on high. And then, eventually, okay, we start, wearing masks and, quarantining and all this sort of thing. But, when you look at a population that big, it's like, are the strategies that we use in the United States even feasible for them? At some point, it's like, you have to adapt the tactics and the strategies to your own situation. Like what works in one country is not necessarily going to work in another. And I think that's why we've seen, over the course of this pandemic with like 14, 16 months, different countries have tried different things. Some countries immediately out the gate were like, don't come here. We're shutting down the airports, locked out, you can't get in.
Yeah. You're not going to see the Leaning Tower of Pisa anytime soon, asshole.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That dream trip to Italy, that's 2030.
Go fuck yourself. Go to the Riverwalk in San Antonio.
But, other places are like, yeah, come on. Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
And it's like, the government probably knows the best, right? They have access to the most information in terms of, like, being able to say, okay, if we change this, this is the effect it's going to have. Like, I can tell you that it would be an annoyance if we shut down the airports altogether. But I think, they can quantify it from like, okay, it's going to be this much of a loss of revenue. Or, we're going to reduce contact in terms of individuals by X percentage or whatever. Like, I sort of imagine that they have doctors and scientists who can quantify that sort of thing. But like the stuff that we do here, right, is not necessarily going to be what India does or like what Nigeria does or, what South Korea does. I think each country has had to sort of adapt and find their own sort of like working strategy in order to fight COVID.
All right, that went off the rails pretty quick, but, obviously COVID comes up. There's a lot of emotions for everybody. Everyone's sick of talking about it. I'm sick of talking about it.
I'm sick of hearing about it.
Yeah, it's still obviously going on. Whether you, whatever you believe about it or not, you still got to respect other people's wishes and opinions. So with that, guys, we're going to leave you.
Hopefully you've enjoyed at least some, if not all of it. More quality content coming to you guys in the next episode, but we're going to wrap it up here. I'm Vlad.
I'm Joey.
And thanks for listening to us on Eye to Nigh.
See you guys next week. Bye.